Hello, um, my name is Marko Post and I'm from FrostFX. FrostFX is a 12-year-old company who has been mainly producing visual effects for movies and games. But now I would rather say that we are like a content production company where we just produce digital assets and for movies and everything else as well. So it's not limited only to cinema screens, but mostly like digital screens, and so the process more or less is the same. So from quite early on we started cooperating with freelancers, and what I saw in the beginning, what was the main problem growing the company was like getting good artists on the projects who have enough skill and enough experience to actually produce really high quality like assets and do really good work. And we started with like getting our first like remote artists from Lithuania, and then some artists from Russia. But nowadays we basically have artists working for us all over the world, from South America to, I would say, East Asia, and how I mostly describe it, it's more about like time zones than countries, because like it doesn't much matter whether the artist is from South America or they're from China. Like in most cases they understand what they're doing. So this was like the basic breakdown of FrostFX, and then I'm going to show you our show reel as well in a second. Then I will just cover a couple of topics, like how to break down the project and how to choose teams and artists, and how the communication should be handled when you don't see any faces or you don't know if anybody is there or not. Yeah, these are like a couple of movies where we have been working. Yeah, like the same thing actually. What goes for the artists, as they're remote, our clients are also remote. So Estonia is like basically hub where we just keep our some of the computers and some of the frame power. So maybe you can play the show reel. to press any other buttons. Oh yeah. So yeah, all of our projects start with really like intense breakdown because I would say that it's key of like successful execution, because like more detail you can go, better it is. But we usually start with really broad like concepts where like just to establish understanding what our partner actually needs and what are their goals, and all of that needs to be understood by everybody along the way when we go to like finding artists and deploying them on projects. So the main goal is to go from big goals to very small elements, like just to explain like a breakdown of one scene where you have like a established environment, and then you break it down to like to the grass and small details what you have in the scene. Then everything has to be taken account of, because if you imagine that somebody needs to create that scene in 3D, then it might require like 3 to 4 artists to create that, and all these artists have to depend on each other. And there's a lot of like in visual effects there's a lot of like dependency because it's for the most part it's teamwork rather than individual artists' effort. And like choosing artists is like very dependent on the breakdown. And maybe you can play the other video.
Not from the top. Not from the top. You know, not that's the I'm talking that's the wet, huh? Not from the top. Not from the top. That's the wet. You know, not that's the I'm talking that's the huh?
Yeah, and this was like a video of like a collection of the artists' work who we have in our team. So in Estonia we have a small 10-person team, but all over the world we have around like 150 artists who we can deploy on each project. And the way we choose those artists who will be deployed on each of the projects is basically based on their skills. Like let's say one animator is really good at animating really real looking lions, then we choose that person on a project where we need a very realistic lion. And same goes for any other kind of very specific criteria what we have on the projects, like whether it's explosions or water or liquid simulations or anything. And choosing the teams is basically like there are a couple of criteria like skills, which I already mentioned, and then their personal goals as well. Like because today, especially after COVID, as I've seen the work relationship with has changed quite drastically. That we don't only deploy freelancers who are like project-based artists, but we also deploy artists who are actually working in some other company, because they work from home and they actually can choose when they work for any other company as well. So you have much more bigger talent base in that way, and it gives quite a lot of flexibility. Then one really important thing when working with remote talent is their responsiveness. Like some people respond to their messages like day or two later, and that doesn't suit us at all. Like for us, it's very important that it's basically like messages responded in half an hour or an hour, and it doesn't matter in which part of the world they are from, except if they're sleeping, then yeah, I don't expect them to answer. And that brings to the other topic that when assembling teams, I would say the most important part is that they all know when are their like operating hours, that the more people you get from the same time zone, and like for example, if I would be if I'm in Estonia at the moment, then I'm usually trying to get all the artists from like plus minus 2 hours from here, and all that range to like South Africa. And it doesn't matter whether they are from let's say Istanbul or somewhere in Africa, they still can respond in like at the same time, and it gives much more this kind of trust in the artists. Like when we are working with artists, let's say from South America, then some of the project or the communication time has to be managed in a sense that there are like this kind of communication windows. Let's say our evening time is when we have the meetings with the artists from there, and they have the meetings in their mornings. And as quite a lot of our clients are from US, then it suits us quite well if we have all the meetings with the clients and the artists who are from South America, and they can also communicate with each other in the same time zone. So it's like it's mostly like time management these days rather than anything else. And also another very important thing is like tech. Like nowadays it's not that much of a problem whether which kind of machine people have at home, because we also use like virtual machines. So somebody even with a really shitty machine can log into Google's machines and work off from there, and they can get like very scalable resources really fast, which is really nice. And you can like deploy these kind of machines 10 or 20 in a matter of like hours, and just like building a new team is really easy these days.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question related to availability of the talent.
Yes.
That how much time you have to really spend on that actually the person you want on the project is working on some other project. How much time does this take?
I would say for any size project, usually we have, actually that's a good point, we don't only work with individual artists, but we also work with teams where there is also already some team lead somewhere, and they have their own network, so they are able to manage that group of artists who they know themselves, and which puts less management strain on us. But when it comes to like getting to know when people are available, then that usually takes like a couple of hours, and that's important when you're choosing very responsive artists, because they usually let you know that, okay, I have like a project coming up in 2 or 3 weeks, and there is this kind of window somewhere in their schedule where they can do some work, and that's not a huge hassle, but it takes time. Like there are some like solutions for that, but when it comes to the like a discipline of some artists to actually use those tools to show when they're busy or when they're not busy, then I would say the best is just to ask them still, like because like some do fill out some like scheduling apps where you can actually see whether they're busy or when they're available, but for the most part you just have to double check.
But I guess this format would work that you have enough pool, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, like 150 artists available, and then you can organize it. But
Yeah, like
you should have to
somebody
build
is
a network.
always available. Like whether we're looking for like modelers or animators, then we like make this kind of list of people who would be suitable, and out of them somebody is available at like 99%. And even if there is like let's say a situation where there is no available artists, then we just find new ones. Yeah, because people know people, and then we can just find another one who is trusted by somebody who we trust, and this is quite a solid method in a way that, of course, there has been like those like unfortunate cases as well, where we had one project where just one artist started delaying their like sending in their deliverables, and we like after 2 days of delays we just changed that up. So we usually, my experience is that if somebody doesn't meet the deadlines, then they won't be meeting them in future as well. Yeah, because like when it comes to team management and team communication, like nobody wakes up in the morning thinking that, oh, I want to have a hard day today. Mostly that's why we keep everything very simple as well, that when it comes to communication, we do as much prep work in the beginning of the project as possible to establish the breakdown of the project, establish the goals of the project, establish the milestones of the projects, and also like very like basic information where it comes to like for the movies especially and the commercials, like frame rates, resolutions, where the files are, how everything is structured, how files have to be named, where they will be uploaded, how the new versions are being managed. Like there's a lot of this kind of just self-hygiene which needs to be established with every project. And we have a very nice and simple framework for that. And for the most part, it works really well. And of course, like with every project, you have some things which you cannot like predict that what will happen with something, and that's why if everything is nicely prepared and kept simple, then you have time to deal with those problems. Otherwise, if you try to have very complicated system for everything, and like learning of the file structure takes too much time, then nobody will use it, because it's very important that people will actually use the tools what are available for them, because there has been like cases where, like especially in the beginning when we started with the remote work, but you have very complicated thought through process, and you have everything in your head, but explaining that to somebody else who does only like 1 week of work, then they won't take time, like 1 day, to get to know the crazy systems in your head. And also it's very important to establish the roles, because like what we usually do with all the artists, we pull them up into one communication app. So at the moment for us it's mostly Discord. I found that being like most flexible and robust, so you can give roles to all the people. So like let's say Christopher from Spain knows that Muhammad from Egypt is a modeler, and vice versa, that everybody knows what to expect from each other, because it might be their first project together, and they might not know that who people are, because when you have people in the same office, then you kind of like learn their positions, but with this kind of virtual room, you can have that like kind of give them name tags, so people will know what is everybody's role. And also like transparency is very important, where when it comes to managing the projects, is that everybody has access to as much information as they need, but because like if there is a, let's say, the overall structure of our like Discord channels is that we have like a channel or category for every project, and then different channels for different departments, because if we would keep all the people in the same channel, then there would be just a huge amount of this kind of noise generated. But if you little bit like categorize different topics, then it already creates a huge change in terms of communication, where everybody is more up to date what they need to know about. And when it comes to like meetings, we do quite a lot of this kind of like a team meetings on video, and also or like over Zoom or like Google Meet or like anything else. And we record all of them, because let's say somebody couldn't pay attention to the meeting, or because like this kind of remote work is very much different from having people in the office. Actually, even in the office, there have been like cases where somebody hasn't been focusing on something, and with this kind of all digital workflow, you can record, but it's very rarely used. What I've seen and heard, that and from that recording, you can actually do a transcription as well. We are not using that yet, but maybe in future when there is more need for that. Because in that case, you can actually search what was being talked about as well. And also, like all the information which is critical for the project has to be stored in a same place, and so people could have fast access. That comes back to the Discord channels as well, that there might be some kind of discussion about some important element about the project, and 5 minutes later it's already, you would need to scroll to that. Then all that information has to be extracted from the conversations and stored in a document or anywhere where people know to find that information. That just avoids a lot of this kind of redoing and raises the efficiency of team working together. Yep. Yep, that's about it. Yeah. I'm very happy to answer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so what's your approach to managing time zones? Like, do you stack them together if people are in neighboring time zones, or you don't like manage it that specifically?
Like when they're like dependent artists working together on each other, then like the main thing is that you have the schedule and everybody sticks to that schedule. But when it's like this kind of very fast or project with a very short deadline, then it's better to have everybody in more or less the same time zone, so they would be waking up at the same time or start working at the same time. And the other you can, and we have done it so as well, that let's say people from Europe finish their day, then they hand off their stuff to South America, and in the morning India picks up something, and then you can have like this kind of like 3 shifts in the day. Mm-hmm. It requires very good communication between different teams, because like everybody has to hand off like what they like their finished state of the day. So whoever picks up the work next day or in their morning, then they know what they need to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have those like startup meetings or closing up meetings at the end of shifts or starts of shifts?
We try to have not too many meetings, like on the daily basis. Rather have that information described in like a project management software, because the meetings, I mean, I would say humans are very social animals, and they like to talk about other things as well, and then work. And in that sense, like people don't describe their like daily habits on a project task. In most cases, yeah. Yep.
So your productions are mainly about creating gases for film and effects, and I wonder with Unreal 5 or technologies coming where the high fidelity assets could also be used for games. I wonder if you see your projects changing in any way, that you would create stuff that would also be used for games.
Like for the most part, like when it comes to animators or modelers, they do work for games or like movies. Today it doesn't matter much. Like it mostly with games, it comes down to how the files are, or the product is or asset is imported to game engine, whether it needs to be optimized in a way or anything like that. But other than that, when it comes to like very traditional keyframe animation, then it doesn't matter whether the output is in a game or a movie or in animation or like social media, video or anything.
But your projects, do they kind of cover all those, or
like for the most part, it's like on film or like film stuff. Mm-hmm. But I want to get more game projects, for future, because I really like Unreal 5, and I see I see like actually at the moment we are working on a project where we just started. We are doing the same thing in two different solutions. One is more this kind of conventional way, and other one is like same thing done in Unreal, just to see like which gets done faster. Yeah, and what are the problems of like Unreal Engine workflow. Yeah, but other than that, like I imagine that in next 5 years we won't be using like regular 3D softwares or engines to render stuff. Rather, we would use Unreal because it's more efficient. Yeah. Yep.
Why do you think it's more efficient?
Well, like when it comes to rendering, for example, like of course, when you scale up, let's say you have 100 GPUs, so 3090 GPUs, let's say, then you can render out, let's say, one shot which has 100 frames in matter of like half an hour. But if you don't have that kind of resource available, then it might take a couple of days to render everything out, and then you can't do as many iterations. With Unreal, I feel that when you have all the assets imported already to Unreal, then you can do everything much more interactively, and if there is any kind of change, you don't have to re-render everything again. Rather, you can just add a light or like change some positions. So it would optimize not only the rendering part, but also like compositing part, where you need to adjust some things, but you could do all of that in the same package.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't like replace everything what we do, because like when it comes to animation, I know Unreal Engine has better animation tools now than it had before, but they don't come close to what is possible in like Maya or more this kind of traditional animation packages. Yep.